I'm not an expert when it comes to watercolor pencils, and I usually use them only to add details to my marker drawings. But since I have a small box of watercolor pencils, I thought it would be a good idea to play around with them and see what can I draw with just a small box of 12 pencils. Today I'll be using a super affordable Colour Tint water-soluble pencils by Spectrum Noir. I did some research and I found a bunch of different ways to use the watercolor pencils, and I want to try these techniques today. Let's start with creating color swatches and see how the pencils behave on different types of paper. The first technique is pretty obvious. You can draw with watercolor pencils like with regular pencils. The only thing I've noticed that the result will look different depending on what paper you're using and what texture this paper has. I'm drawing swatches on the regular drawing paper right now, and the color looks pretty good. For example, here's how these watercolor pencils look like when you use them like regular colored pencils on just regular drawing sketchbook. The second technique is adding water to activate the pigment. I'll be using Arches 100% cotton watercolor paper, and I already did swatches, so let's add water and see how the colors will look like. What's the difference between watercolor pencils and regular colored pencils? Watercolor pencils look and draw like regular pencils at first glance, but if you add water to them, it will create soft painted effect, almost like if you were to draw with regular watercolors. Most of the colored pencils are made of wax or oil base to bind the pigment, and watercolor pencils are made with a water-soluble pigment binder. And I really like how these pencils look like on watercolor paper. I also tried to use these pencils on drawing paper, and I've noticed that the colors tend to look less intense compared to the watercolor paper. Here is an example. I've tried drawing this flower with these pencils on drawing paper, and you can see that the colors look very washed out and subtle if we compare it to our swatches on watercolor paper. So try using different types of paper and you'll see the result will be very different. The third technique is the blending colors. Basically, you apply two colors and blend them on the paper by adding water. This way you can also create a color gradient by using 3 or more colors. You can also simply create any other color shade by blending two pencils together. For example, by mixing yellow and blue pencils, we can create a green shade. The fourth technique is applying the color by using a brush. Basically, like if you were to draw with regular watercolors, use the wet brush and take a little bit of pigment from the tip of the pencil and apply it on the paper, and add more water to dissolve the pigment. The fifth technique is very simple. You can blend colors on a palette like with the regular watercolors to create a new color shade, and then apply it on the paper. And here's the sixth and last technique I wanted to try today. I add a lot of water on the paper, take a watercolor pencil and cut a little bit of pigment on the paper, and it looks like magic. The tiny parts of pigment start to dissolve, creating this beautiful abstract texture. Let's do a quick drawing together using some of these techniques. I'll be drawing an olive branch, and I also created a coloring page for you, so feel free to download it in the description of this video. I'll be using Arches 100% cotton watercolor paper mostly because I really like how these pencils look like on this paper, and also because, to be honest, this is the only watercolor paper I currently have. I started with a quick rough pencil sketch, and after that I outline sketch and define my drawing with a Rockwell blue color. For this drawing, I'll be using only 4 colors from this set: maize, grass green, Rockwell blue, and olive. As a next step, we'll add colors. I'm drawing leaves by simply covering them with pencil and layering colors. For example, I'm drawing with a grass green color first, and after that I apply olive color. Later, when we add water to our drawing, the colors will blend and create more interesting shade. The couple things that you need to keep in mind when coloring leaves with pencils. I've noticed that the more pressure you apply to the pencil while drawing, the more intense color you'll have after you add water. And it also helps to add value to the leaves. That's why I draw some leaves darker and some lighter. Let's add water, which is the key ingredient in our drawing to make it look like a watercolor sketch. When we add water, it activates the water-soluble pigment, which our pencils made of, and makes them look like watercolors. After I'm done with adding water to my drawing, I'll let the drawing dry completely. As a next step, I'll be using one of the techniques I mentioned before in this video. I'm gonna take color with a brush and draw with it like a regular watercolor. So basically, I'll layer it on top of the previous color layer and carefully blend it in by adding more water if needed. And after that, I'll let the drawing dry completely one more time. As a next step, I'll be using a flat synthetic brush. I dip it in the water, wipe a little bit with a paper towel, and using the edge of the brush, draw the midrib of the leaf. The flat brush removes the cover from the paper and leaves a white stroke that looks like a midrib and adds detail to the leaf. So I'll continue drawing these details with a flat brush all over my drawing. And after that, I'll let the drawing dry completely one more time. And now it's time to draw a background. For the background, I'll apply clean water on the paper, but only on the parts where we're supposed to have a background. After that, I'll cut the yellow pencil on the wet paper. And if it doesn't dissolve well, try to add more water. And I will repeat the same technique all over the drawing. After it dries out completely, it creates a beautiful background texture. this is how my drawing looks like after it dried out. I love how the background texture adds this nice look to the drawing. And this is it for today. Thanks for watching this video, and please share with me any tips on how you use watercolor pencils in the comments below. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video.